Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, we are discussing cushion shoes. We're going to be doing our best cushion shoes roundup in the coming weeks. And this video, which is also the podcast, so if you're planning on listening to the podcast, maybe don't watch this video. We're going to be talking about how we classify cushion shoes, what we define a cushion shoe as, how cushion shoes are changing at the moment, and basically how we decide what goes in the best cushion shoe list. Right, let's dive in and see what we all had to chat about. So, cushion shoes, gentlemen. It's a tricky area. These, I think, if you looked at cushion shoes maybe 5-10 years ago, it was very clear which ones were the cushion shoes from a brand. You could walk into a running shoe shop and you could see the cushion shoes there and go, I know they're cushioned, I know what they're for, comfort basically. But over time, as stacks have increased, as shoes have just tried to be more versatile, it's become a little bit of a more confusing type of shoe. So in this podcast video, we're going to talk through what we classify as cushion shoes when we're doing our roundups and how we choose the best cushion shoes. We're going to be doing our best cushion shoes roundup in the next month. So this acts as a bit of a discussion precursor to that, to work out, to explain why we choose those shoes and what the options that we've got in there. Okay, so let's start this off with, what would we classify as a cushion shoes these days?
Yeah. I mean, I for me, there's a range here. So, the obvious one, we're looking at, there's that trend for max cushion shoes where you're looking at big stacks. I think we're seeing more of the latter. And as you said, Tom, just a second ago, the shoes that we probably would have considered to be sort of more maximalist, max cushion, now look like they're like the mid cushion shoes. So things like a Saucony Ride 17 and maybe a Glitter, those kind of shoes, they've still got sort of pretty big stacks. There's still a lot of cushion there. And they probably fall at the bottom end of that category for me. But we've now got a whole bunch of new shoes that come in with much higher stacks. And you could argue that you could define it sort of by stack, and we're talking midsoles ranging from sort of 35 mils right up to 50 mils in the heel, from sort of 20 or late 20 mils to sort of 30 and beyond in the forefoot. So they've got a big hulking great stack of foam on there. But I think it also comes down to more than the foam. It's the type of foam, how soft it's tuned. Often these tend to be tuned softer to provide more cushioning on impact. The bigger stack can obviously mean that you're going to get shoes that might be heavier, but I guess part of where the confusion lies is that because the foams are coming in now softer and more cushioned and lighter, you can have bigger stacks. I think for me, I think about this also in terms of purpose. So I would have a cushion shoe in our category, which is something that I would tend to be using for more of my everyday miles. It's for my bigger mileage, for my low and for my slow. If you're thinking about 80% of your mileage coming in at a certain sort of lower end of pace, just to build base, these are the shoes that you're going to want to put on for those miles to soak up the ground, and also your recovery miles, those kind of things. I think where it might get complicated is you can have some shoes that have a lot of cushioning, but they're very stripped back lightweight. And you think about the kind of race shoes, you could think about like an Adidas Prime X 2 Strung. That's a massively cushioned shoe, but I wouldn't put it in our cushion shoes bracket. I think that's a shoe for faster, but that's kind of how in my head, that's how I define cushion.
So I think that if you were trying to drill it down to a very simple couple of statements, I think cushion shoes, in the way that we define them, is shoes that are designed for comfort and protection over any distance, basically. So cushion shoes for a lot of people are used for long runs, so they keep your legs nice and fresh and with the consistent hitting of the ground. So I would classify cushion shoes as those purely focused on the comfortable side of training, as opposed to basically not performance shoes. So I don't think we'd have any performance shoes in best cushion shoes. What do you think?
I think a little kind of what Kieran was saying. I think the characteristics of these cushion shoes are very varied now, but I think the essence for me, when I think of a cushion shoe, I think of this is a type of shoe that can be an entry point for a lot of runners. And I think so. There's a lot of key things I think need to be ticked off. You talked about some of them there, Tom. I think also maybe you make some compromises in terms of weight, in terms of the level of padding that you're going to get in an upper, where you might own more racing focused shoe. You're going to get obviously minimal material, a lot lighter durability. Those kind of things are going to lessen. But I think for me, the way I look at a cushion shoe is one that a lot of people are going to be able to pick up. As Kieran said, do use it for a lot of their kind of daily miles, and you're not necessarily thinking this is going to be a shoe, although it might be able to race in it. That's ultimately going to be a shoe that's really going to just cover up a mixture of your running. It might just be the one shoe as well that you use and you buy, because not everyone's going to have a rotation and of shoes. It could be one that's going to cover all of your running.
Up to a point, yeah. So if you were running marathons, trying to get a sub-3 marathon, we probably wouldn't put a traditional cushioned shoe in that list, would we?
No. But I think the flip is true. It's also if you're coming in for a 5.5, which I think is sort of the average marathon finish time globally, you may well look for something that's going to have a bit more protection towards the end. I'd probably lean towards the more kind of medium cushion, so at the bottom end of that cushioned shoes, rather than the big sort of heavier, really recovery style cushion shoes. But I think for some people they may go for a cushioned shoe if they're running a much slower marathon. Yeah,
and I suppose as well with the enhancement and development of foams, what we have been seeing in some shoes is that even though the stack isn't increasing, the foam is actually feeling softer with less of that stack height. So doesn't necessarily mean the stack height. It's just historically more stack height generally means more cushioning. But if you can find a way to have less cushioning, less midsole in, but it still provides the same cushioning, then that might be a way that was going to confuse our classifications as everything else does. All right, well let's try and because I'm going to be editing the best cushion shoes video. What categories would we have, do you think, for best cushion shoe if we were going to try and compartmentalize it into categories?
I think the obvious one is that. Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think the obvious one is the rise of max stack cushion shoes. I think that in itself has to have just because pretty much every brand has a shoe in that space now, and I think that's become a category that wasn't there. I think there were some brands that were doing those shoes. I think with Hoka were probably quite early there with those kind of max cushion shoes, and now pretty much every brand has that shoe, and I think there's a strong enough selection of shoes there to build a category around, and actually good options. That's the main thing. It's not just a lot of options, a lot of very strong performing options that we've collectively all kind of tested and used.
So how about if you classified it, so you've got your purely easy day cushion shoes, because there's quite a few of those that I know of that I wouldn't use for anything else. Just they've got no real enjoyment over long distance. They've got no performance element. Something like the New Balance More range. I love using those for easy days and comfort and cushioning, but I would never even dream of going for a faster run in them. So would that be a category, do you think, that firm easy day shoe?
I think so because I think a lot of people are using their cushion shoes for that reason, right? That it is, you save your carbon shoes or your kind of faster non-plated shoes for those kind of focused training sessions, those harder training sessions, and these are the shoes where you may be struggling to want to go out, and it's like, well, this is a shoe that I know it's going to give me that comfort, that level of comfort that's going to make doing that extra amount of running you probably don't want to do a lot easier to do.
All right, give me some more categories then.
I think it's definitely got to be one. I mean, this is not one necessarily that as runners we need a lot of, I don't think, in our group, but stability has to be in there, I think.
Yeah.
All of those, that's one thing they tend to have sort of more cushioning.
I'm finding stability cushion very, very difficult these days. If you looked at shoes 3 or 4 years ago with like the Keanu 28, things like that, there was a very, very clear difference between what a cushion shoe did, a neutral cushion shoe, and what the gel Keanu was doing. You could instantly tell you had a stability shoe on. But now what I'm finding is that a lot of these stability shoes out, and I've been running in loads of stability shoes recently, they're basically comparable with some of the best cushion shoes out there. You don't even notice the stability in them. So it's added another element of confusion to how to choose the best cushion shoe. If you look at something like the Hurricane 24, That's a stability shoe. If you hadn't told me I had stability in it, I would put it up there with some of the best max cushion shoes out there, and like the More V4 or something like that. So yeah, you're right. It's really, you definitely need to have that stability cushioning in, but it is a tricky one to sort of work out what it actually means at the moment.
It's made me wonder as well. Like I'm not a big gait analysis. I'm always a bit dubious about how well those tests are done. But I've been on and people have said you need stability shoes. I've never run really in stability shoes, but I do wonder. There's this whole thing that we're on a spectrum of how much stability we need, and the shoes are getting better at being a little more subtle or a bit more accommodating. So people who might need mild stability now find those shoes better. And I wonder if that's actually that we might need a little bit of more stability, and we benefit from that now because the shoes are able to cater better rather than being really kind of sort of forceful in the stability. But
yeah, well, I always think that stability shoes is not really a category in the way that people think of it, because I keep talking about like the old days, but if you went into a running shop, they would have very clear sets of stability shoes in there. Each brand would have its stability shoes, and they'd be comparable. They'd all have medial posts in. They'd all be a bit chunkier and quite clunky. Now on the channel, people say, "Can we have a Versus with the Hurricane 24 and the Tempest?" But for me, they're completely different shoes. One's a cushion shoe, one's a daily shoe. So stability shoes is becoming a bit confusing. I wouldn't, if we had a category in best cushion shoes, which was best stability cushion shoes, I wouldn't put the Tempest in there because I don't think it's cushioned enough to be classed as a cushion shoe.
But I think there's a change in the nature of stability. I think ultimately you talked about it. It's that previously it would be one focused thing that would be delivering that stability, and the way stability shoes or guidance, these kind of supportive shoes have evolved is that they're delivering that from various bits of the other of the design of the shoe. So if it's the sidewalls, if it's that broader base, and I think that's where the blurring of the lines between a kind of a neutral and a kind of a moderate stability shoe, I think that's maybe more of the thing. We're maybe not seeing that very kind of strict stability shoe. We're seeing a growth of the kind of mild stability shoes where we're finding where we don't need that stability, but as neutral runners, most of us, we are able to get on with those shoes because they are so close in terms of that. But I think it's because that stability is coming from different places where I think generally it's going to work for most runners.
Yeah, and I think if you look at something like the Hurricane, I like you, Kieran, I'm told that I need a bit of stability every time I've had my gait analysis done. I don't do it. But if you look at something like the Hurricane, if you try and run and pronate in it, you can feel it. You can feel that support kicking in, which would be interesting to find an actual somebody who really majorly overpronates to see how those shoes work for them. But I think they're very interesting design these days where you don't notice their stability shoes until you actually need it, which we're moving on to stability shoes here.
That's a different episode.
So another category would be best cushioned stability shoe, and I think we've got a load of those now that we can put in. And we, traditionally we didn't really test stability shoes on the channel because none of us really need it, but now they're just accessible to anyone. Okay, any other categories? It's like it's not a performance one, a versatile one, like I suppose your daily cushion shoe.
Yeah, that was where I was going to go. I wouldn't know what to call it really, but and I think some of these will come in into what I was sort of saying earlier. They're kind of now would be considered almost like in terms of stack, often like the medium stack. And I know that's not the only sort of thing that will get something into this category, but it's shoes for me like a Supernova Prima, Saucony Ride 17, Triumph, those kind of shoes where they've got a big old sort of stack of cushioning, but they're able to do more. They can run in good comfort when you want to go slow, but when you're pushing up to maybe 70% of your pace or whatever you want to go a little bit faster, they can also do some of that if you really want to. I think that's something that we're seeing a lot more of as well.
So what we've got: easy day shoe, stability cushion shoe, daily cushion shoe. Is there anything else? Have I missed one?
I guess the speed. I guess we want some kind of speed focused. I mean, for me, maybe there's an argument for that, right? That maybe they're not the same level of.
Well, yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you could have Super Blast in there, you could have the Prime X2 in there, but then where are you going with that? Because then you got carbon plate race shoes that are probably some of the most cushioned shoes out there.
But it's those shoes that where you know that it's going to give you an aspect of those racing shoes that you may already have, but it's going to give you that durability and level and protection that you're maybe not going to get in the same way. And I feel like that is an area that's growing. I mean, it's
all right. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's move on to nice simple one. What makes a good cushion shoe?
What makes a good cushion shoe? I mean, for me,
there's going to be things that there's things that are nice in specific shoes, but in general, if say you're a beginner runner, you're going into a shop, what do you think that cushion shoe needs to have for that beginner that's above all else important for that runner?
I think it needs to feel balanced. I use the word balanced a lot in our videos, and I sometimes check myself saying it too much. But for me, and this will be different for different runners, but the amount of cushioning has to feel right on the foot for the weight that you're carrying in the whole shoe as well. And for me, my personal preference is for a shoe where there's good cushioning. It takes the edge off the road, but it isn't too soft and sinky. I like to feel some of the road still. I know other runners really want just to be, to have almost no road coming up through and just feel like they're having all of that impact taken away and they can just run in kind of supreme, kind of pillowy comfort. I still like to feel like I'm doing a bit of the work. So I think it does depend. I don't like my cushioning to take too long to respond. Like sometimes I feel some shoes when I'm in them, they'll sink too much and it takes too long for it to come back and I feel like they're a bit sludgy. And even if some of those still have the punch, I don't like that kind of feeling like I'm waiting. So balance for me is key. So I want it to hit like just about the right amount of cushioning with the right weight. And this is why I tend to favor those kind of mid-stack cushion shoes over the really big, bulky, kind of heavier shoes, just because they tend to do that.
Yeah. I would say comfort is really important in any cushion shoe that I looked at, because obviously you can get cushion shoes that are quite lean and have quite minimal uppers. But I think for me, the cushion shoes that I would associate with being cushion shoes generally have quite plush and they're just nice to run in for a long period of time or for slowly. If you went into a shop, if somebody went into a shop and said, I want a really nice cushion shoe, and you came out with a shoe that had a really tight, thin little upper, you wouldn't be happy with that. I think you want that sort of big padding on it. Because cushioning doesn't necessarily is just associated with the midsole, is it? It's the whole thing is is cushioned and comfy.
Well, I'm not a fan of big fat laces. Like I think there's some shoes go too far, and you've got tongues that are like they're giant, and there's like so much heel collar, and there's the laces are as fat as my fingers, and I think that's a bit overdone. That's where I think as well you start to get into big heavy weighted shoes. I want that midsole to do the work for me, but I don't necessarily, and I don't want to feel exposed in some uncomfortable upper. I totally agree, Tom. You want to feel like the shoe has completely got your back on all fronts, but also I don't want to feel like I don't want to get too comfy.
Yes, yeah. Anything from you, Mike? On
I think just a really obvious one is fit options. I think some brands do this better than others, but I think just having extra width fit options, as we've seen, when we've tested shoes, there are some of us have got very narrow feet, and that's going to be a great fit for some of us, but not for all of us. And I think having those options, I think, as I said, I think some brands do that better than others, and having that scope to have something a little bit broader or have something a little bit more narrow, I think is really important. I think we talked about foams and obviously the evolution of how those foams kind of really, and we're seeing more plush, softer foams. I think also it's what's happening around those foams and around that cushioning. I think for me, is a really important feature that I've really kind of appreciated more in cushion shoes is the kind of the rocker element of it. And it doesn't have to be this super aggressive rocker that you're going to get on a more expensive shoe, but something that's going to just help you roll through really nicely when you are doing this kind of comfortable and I think it just makes a world of difference in a cushion shoe. And not every cushion shoe has that, but I think having that as an added ingredient in terms of that performance and that ride, I think makes a massive difference of you wanting to go out in that shoe and wanting to spend a lot of your running time in it as well.
Agree. Okay, well, let's finish off with we haven't actually been through the shortlist of
Let the
cushion
chaos
shoes. But what are give a couple of examples that would be on your list. So we're all going to pick our own top two cushion shoes out at the moment. Mike, what's on your list? Give me two shoes that are on your shortlist for best cushion shoe.
Can I say Super Blast? Is that included in the category?
You can have whatever you want, but you might get a bit of debate on it because you just messed up the categories.
No, I mean in terms of the ones that I've spent a lot of time in, I feel like I go back to in this kind of space. I think the New Balance 1080 V13, which is not new, but I think in terms of kind of max cushion style shoe, that's a very good weight. You know, a shoe that I just know I can go out and it can be very comfortable to run in. And again, I talked about that kind of rocker feel. There's just enough in there to make it a kind of a nice shoe to cruise in. I think things like the Hoka Skyward X I've really liked, and I've been out a lot in post kind of testing, and that's just a fun shoe to run in. A bigger stack of cushioning, but I think there's a lot going on there in terms of what Hoka's done with that shoe. It's going to make it a very enjoyable shoe to run in and really handle the extra weight that you do get in that shoe. And I've also got, I can't talk too much about, but the Puma Mag Max is in it at the moment I'm testing, and that is another of those kind of max stack shoes. But I think, you know, as well as much as it's being pitched as an easy kind of recovery day shoe, I think there's a little bit more about it that it feels a little bit Super Blast, I think, to me, and I think that's potentially another good option. So I think this is a category. There's a lot of good cushion shoe options, which is great for us. You know, great variety. But there's some.
Well, I'm glad we haven't got Nick on this podcast because we'd still be on question 2 now debating it. All right, Kieran, what have you got?
Yeah, I mean, as I sort of said earlier, I think my favourites within this category are possibly slightly different to some other people's. I tend to go for the ones that have a slightly lower stack and probably have a bit more range, a bit more versatility. I can happily run easy and slow in shoes that probably aren't quite so big and pillowy and soft. So, you know, for me, I actually really like the Adidas Supernova Prima as a shoe. I think it's got a nice rock ring. It's got quite a kind of stiff outsole, which rolls you through quite nicely. The foam responds, I think, in a really sort of timely fashion. They've got good overall comfort. I can clip along in those really nicely. I always rattle on about the Saucony Ride. That's another shoe that I really like. One that I'm weighing up still on the list, and it's a bit of a curveball, is the On Cloud Monster Hyper. Just for me, that's the shoe I ran the Comrades in, and it did such a good job over that long distance, moving at a really sort of steady to lower pace for me. It just had all of that comfort that we've sort of talked about in some of the shoes. I wasn't really expecting it to. I know it's been criticised because it's not got the liveliness that you might be looking for in a super trainer, but I would, if you put that in the cushion shoes, which I would, I think it sort of has that long haul capability as well. So there's a few there. I mean, as Mike said, there's so many good shoes in this space. I really like the 1080 V13 as well. I even quite enjoyed the Corano 31, as we talked about stability shoes on that. I don't really need that, but I found that had quite a nice clip along as well. I was quite impressed by that. Brooks Ghost Max 2, I'm still testing. I like the Ghost Max original. Whether or not I like the 2 as much, I'm still working out. But I think all of these shoes are sort of swimming around in my head. I don't know whether the Nike Peg 41 makes it into this category or not, but that's another one that I found very good for easy miling right up to kind of sort of 70%ing. I find it very good at a sort of low and slow pace, although some might not find it as quite protective enough. But all right,
I've heard what you both said. How about if we pick our top 3, but you have to have one which is a max stack, so it's above 37 millimeters or whatever. You have to have one that is under that, and then you can have one versatile one. Does that work?
What now?
And stability.
Not now. When I do the actual video, I'm thinking of ways to actually, because if you picked the on Cloud Hyper and somebody came in looking for a cushion shoe, and they're not looking for that sort of performance features one, they're looking for classic cushion shoes just for easy days.
It's not a performance shoe though. It's not.
But it's
that's the thing. It's
meant to be, isn't it?
That's probably where it falls down. But it's
Yeah. But I think the other thing as well is that the Cloud Hyper is a very expensive shoe. If you're not going to buy that if you're a general runner beginner who just wants a cushion shoe, you're going to look at that and go, why would I buy that?
I mean, I was totally caveating that. That's a very specific to the kind of to people who might be thinking about doing long.
Well, same with Mike and his Super Blast.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Super Blast arguably, I wouldn't count that out, but
yeah,
covers all the bases.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep it simple. The ones on my list at the moment. Well, more V5 is arriving soon, hopefully. So I should imagine I'm going to have some pretty strong views on that. The other ones on my, I definitely think Hurricane 24 is. I've really been enjoying ringing that shoe.
That has surprised me. That shoe has surprised me massively. Because
came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just I'd never even heard of the Hurricane range before.
I remember the cartoon, not the shoe.
The Hurricanes. Yeah, I wonder if any listeners, viewers remember the Hurricanes. And then I'd probably, based on my style of running, go for the 1080 V13 as well. Just very enjoyable shoe, that, for easy days.
But it's not a cushioned daily trainer, because Nick says it's not.
Yeah, well, you can't run fast in it, can you? It basically saps your energy. But if you're going out for a run and you're not bothered about energy return, then it's very comfortable to use.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think that covers us for cushion shoes until Nick gets involved when he's back from holiday and he throws some spanners in the works. Right. Well, we better.
Categories will be changed. Everything will be.
All the categories will be changed. Yeah.
Waste of a video.
Right. Well, we better start choosing them before he gets back. Right then. Catch you later, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
That's it from us on this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell, all those sorts of things that put a smile on our faces. And don't forget, if you want to listen to the podcast version of this or the other podcasts, the link is in the caption below. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.